The world's best doctors had done everything they could. The only son of a billionaire was fighting a mysterious illness that no treatment seemed able to cure. Specialists flew in from every corner of the globe. Experimental medicines were tried. Millions of dollars were spent. Yet with every passing day, the young boy grew weaker. The billionaire father had always believed that money could solve any problem. But now, standing beside his son's hospital bed, he realized there were some battles that wealth could not win. Every doctor delivered the same heartbreaking message. There was nothing more they could do. One cold evening, exhausted and hopeless, the billionaire stepped outside the hospital for fresh air. Near the entrance, he noticed a homeless boy sharing his last piece of bread with an injured puppy. Even though the child clearly had nothing, he smiled warmly as he comforted the frightened animal. The billionaire couldn't look away. The homeless boy noticed the sadness in the man's eyes and quietly asked, "Is someone you love sick?" The billionaire nodded. The boy replied, "Then don't stop believing. Sometimes hope heals what medicine cannot." Those simple words stayed in the billionaire's mind. On impulse, he asked the homeless boy to visit his son, hoping it might lift the lonely child's spirits. The next day, the homeless boy entered the hospital room, carrying nothing but a handmade paper airplane. Instead of talking about sickness, he challenged the billionaire's son to a flying contest. Across the room, for the first time in weeks, laughter filled the hospital room. The doctors were amazed. The boy, who had barely spoken, suddenly smiled. He began eating again. He started asking questions, telling jokes, and looking forward to each new day. The homeless boy visited every afternoon. He told funny stories about the stars, spoke about dreams instead of fear, and reminded his new friend that life was still full of adventures waiting to happen. "Promise me you'll get better," he would say, "and when I do." The billionaire's son asked, "We'll help other kids together." Slowly, something incredible happened. The treatments that had failed for months finally began showing results. The boy's body responded better than anyone expected. His strength returned little by little, and each medical report brought better news than the last. Even the doctors admitted they couldn't fully explain the sudden recovery. They called it extraordinary. Curious about the homeless child, the billionaire began searching for his story. He discovered that the boy had lost both parents years earlier and had survived alone on the streets. Despite all the hardship, he had never lost his kindness or compassion for others. That discovery changed the billionaire forever. When his son was finally declared healthy enough to leave the hospital, the billionaire made a life-changing decision. He legally adopted the homeless boy, gave him a loving home, and promised to support his education. Years passed. The homeless child grew into a brilliant doctor, whose dream was to treat children, regardless of whether their families could afford medical care. He opened a charitable hospital where every child received treatment, hope, and dignity at the hospital's grand opening. The billionaire's son stood before hundreds of guests and said, "When the greatest doctors almost gave up, one homeless boy gave me the courage to fight." He didn't perform a miracle with medicine. He performed it with kindness. The audience fell silent. Many wiped tears from their eyes. The story spread across the country, inspiring millions. It reminded people that while medicine saves lives, can awaken the strength to keep fighting. Sometimes the greatest miracle doesn't come from wealth, power, or advanced technology. Sometimes it comes from a simple act of kindness, a heart full of hope, and one person who refuses to give up on another. And that is a miracle the world will never forget.